I understood what was missing. I understood the parts that no doctor will be able to teach you because we are not taught. And the aspects that really will make possible losing weight for good. So I created this my health coaching practice where I specialize in weight during menopause, and I'm also a behavioral change expert. And I specialize in weight during menopause. So I help you lose weight, but not just lose weight, I help you maintain it. One without the other, for me, they're not success. Nobody goes into a weight loss program aiming to gain the weight back again, isn't it? So we're not going to call success something that just is designed to be temporary or that you won't be able to maintain. As I said, I also have my personal credentials, my personal story. So let me share with you that I also struggled with menopausal weight. Actually, this was what sent me to want to figure out weight once and for all. I just couldn't comprehend with all the knowledge that I had in terms of medicine, in terms of health research. I was a health scientist for big part of my professional life. I knew everything about health, I thought, or the important aspects that I was working on. But despite my medical knowledge and knowing what healthy eating is, I struggled with menopausal weight. I really struggled losing the weight, and whatever I lost, it would come back very, very quickly. I had this constant battle with what I knew I should eat and what was I actually eating. And I realized that I wasn't alone with this. But it made me feel old. That's how I felt. Mid-age and going through the menopause with all the menopausal symptoms, I felt really old. And I felt old in a way that I thought it was way too early to be feeling old, to be feeling that my body is already limiting me. I thought that can't be right. What will end up? How it will end up? So this was quite upsetting. I felt very unfit. I wasn't flexible. I couldn't touch my toes, something that I can do now. I started walking less and less because it was exhausting. So I could see that I was limiting myself and that I wasn't enjoying the activities that I used to enjoy because I was just simply not fit. It made me feel very frustrated. I was also very frustrated, as I mentioned before, because I had those lovely clothes in my closet piled up, waiting, hoping that one day I would lose the weight and would be able to wear them back. The favorite jeans, the favorite black dress, that skirt, that dress, that was just that bit tight and it didn't look good anymore. And I lost the joy of getting dressed, getting ready, going out, enjoying shopping, enjoying there was a part of me that, I think how we dress, how we arrange ourselves is part of our self-expression. And I end up just covering myself. So I was literally hiding because I wasn't comfortable in my skin. Annoyed. That made me feel really annoyed to think that, is this it? I started thinking this. I started thinking it's just downhill from here. So I felt hopeless and helpless. And the sentence that was running in my head was exactly this: it's downhill from here. It can only get worse. And that was even scary, I would say. Now, if you're like me, what you want, probably, if you are here, you want to lose weight, but above all, you want to get your body back and feel like yourself again, physically and emotionally. You want to feel healthier and be healthier. Have a body that supports the second half of your life. That's what I wanted. You want to enjoy food, probably, but feel in control of what you eat, not the other way around. And for me, what was important also is I didn't want to waste time and energy with controlling what I ate and having to use very complicated methods, calories in, calories out, counting. That's where I went. I'm a scientist at heart. So that I thought, well, it makes sense. Let me count everything. The apps were not really capturing well the calories. If they did, it didn't matter. I was not inputting the data properly, and the principle in itself, although it makes sense, you need what you bring in and what you take out. In practice, didn't have a clear application on how to lose weight and how to lose weight sustainably. So for me, that was very important. That how I wanted to lose weight and my relationship with food needed to be something normal, something that didn't take over my life either. It cannot be a diet that makes me as busy as the thinking about weight. While we want this, most of us, we try to achieve it by trying every new diet possible, every superfood, everything, especially during menopause. How many of you have a list of things that supposedly we should be doing during menopause, counting every calorie, doing, as I say, everything. Exercise. Once food doesn't work, don't you all move to exercise? That's what I did. Like, well, let me see if I can burn it, and hoping that that would be the solution. It never was for me. And many of you have written, thank you for those who came back to me about where you struggle. And you're all telling me how much you exercise, which is fantastic. I'll deal with these at the Q&A, at the questions. Fantastic. Please keep doing this exercise. I will tell you that exercise is not a good tool to lose weight. I'll tell you why. Spending hours researching for a better solution, and one after the other, and comparing and contrasting and getting completely confused. And all these with me having a really good background knowledge. I'm a doctor and a health researcher. And yes, I was also confused. So don't feel bad if you do, if you also are confused or feel confused. Relying on willpower, the one that's like, I'll be strong. How many of you try this, or trying to be more disciplined? But it just means using more willpower. And then blaming ourselves when it doesn't work. I must be weak. Must be my problem. And for me, it really brought me to give up, almost thinking nothing works, this is impossible. Nothing works, the sentence that I hear most with my clients when they come. But to me, what that brought me is to this realization: if we are all struggling, and it's not just during menopause, we struggle with weight before. So there is something about how we tackle weight that it seems that none of us have figured out weight. So it just came to me, the realization: if none of us can solve it, the problem can't be us. The approach must be flawed. The dieting approach must be flawed. And that's what then sent me into the quest of understanding what was missing, what else different I was not doing, because diets were clearly not giving me the answer. So why nothing seems to work? There's two problems that I want to highlight today. One is that, and very important ones, we're not solving the main problem. And I'll tell you what the main problem is in a second. And the other is that we're only focusing on losing weight. You say, what? Yeah, we're only focusing on losing weight. You'll see what I mean. I'll come back to this one. Let's start with not solving the main problem. So what is the main problem? You'll be asking. Why? And the answer is why losing is to the same question of why losing weight during menopause feels so hard. What I realize is that if menopausal hormonal changes were the main factor that drive this weight gain that we all experience, most women experience it, HRT, hormone replacement therapy, would help. And it doesn't. It doesn't. So while hormones might be in the path, in the biological path of why we gain weight, they're not the only. They're not the only, and I dare say maybe not the most important. So what happens as we go through menopause is what I call the double burden. The double burden will have two main paths creating this weight gain that we experience. Yes, one is the menopausal changes. Definitely what happens to us as our hormones diminish, but diminish in a very sometimes chaotic way. It affects our body, and hormones are very, very powerful. I think we've all experienced the effect of the hormones throughout our lives. So yes, they're very powerful. So what is that happens due to the menopause? The adipose tissue redistributes. We start gaining weight centrally, this central adiposity. The symptoms is you lose your waist, the abdominal belly. So why does that happen? Is partly due to the fact that the body tries to retain estrogens, which are diminishing. Remember, that's the definition of menopause. But the body wants to keep them, and one place where they can get stored is in adipose tissue, in fat. So that's why the body retains fat so that it can keep estrogens. Also, as we go through menopause, we increase the risk, the likelihood of developing insulin resistance. We become a little bit more insulin resistant. Insulin resistant means that the sugars are not well metabolized, are not as well metabolized. It's a pre-stage of diabetes, which is a problem of the sugar. And then the sugar goes up, and increased weight, overweight, and obesity are very typical symptoms of insulin resistance and then diabetes. So that's definitely part of the path. Also, because the hormones are very powerful creators of hunger and cravings. And you probably remember this from when you had your monthly periods, when they were regular, that craving for carbs, that craving for sugars was very well, my case really followed my hormonal the peaks and the lows of the hormones really went together with the cravings and the hunger. So when we go through menopause, these ups and downs really influence that too. These are indirect paths, but increased hunger, increased cravings will be part of that. Again, more indirect mechanisms are the mood fluctuations. We all know that food is a comfort, and we use food for comfort. As we go through this roller coaster of emotions, for us, it makes sense that we try to solve somehow some of that through food. Makes perfect sense. And finally, sleep disruption. Very common during menopause. And you need to know that a body that doesn't sleep isn't a body that will ask more food, will make sure that it gets more food so that it can function. That's why sleep disruption is also related to weight gain. So if you look at all these changes that happen during menopause, what they do is they drive us to eat more. And also, our body stores even more, stores everything it gets, right? So as we go through the menopause, the changes makes us eat more and we store better. But there's something else that happens, and is this something else that makes this contrast and why it's so hard? And the second mechanism is aging. And we all forget it because as we go through the menopause, we think it's so overwhelming sometimes what happens due to the hormones that we forget that actually what is also underpinning, because it happens at the same time, is aging. How do I know aging contributes? Men also gain weight as they age. All right. So the two mechanisms happen independently and they compound. But let's look at what aging does and see how then is the contrast of the two that makes it specifically hard for us women. Testosterone declines. We lose muscle mass. Aging affects lots of other aspects, but the ones that will affect weight mainly will be these. We tend to move less, definitely, and our metabolism slows down. So if you look at the effects of aging, what actually happens is that our body needs less energy. As we're moving less, we lose muscle mass, and our metabolism slows down, what we should be doing is provide less energy, right? So even when you continue doing the same, when you eat the same, which is what many clients come telling me, is like, I'm just doing the same habits are now giving you different results because it becomes too much for what your body needs. But what's most important as we go through menopause is the two are happening together. They are co-occurring, which means that as we age, our body needs less food. But as we've seen, all the hormonal changes are driving us to eat more. So the result of this happening at the same time, we need less, but we're giving more, is that we overeat for our body's needs. Even if you continue eating the same, you're very likely to overeat for your body's needs. And that's a hard one. It took me a while to understand that this is what was happening. We're still eating, and even if you eat very healthy, which many of you do, I know, but you might still be eating more than what your body needs. So how do we solve overeating? Because you're all thinking food. That's what I spend most of my time thinking, food. What do I need to change? And yes, you do need to change how you eat and what you eat. But let me get to something way more important. How do you decide what you eat and why you eat? Have you thought about that? How you make that decision? What you put in your plate? When do you eat and why? We don't just eat with our mouths, we eat with our brains. What do I mean by that? That what you eat and why you eat is decided in your brain, is your brain who makes that decision. So we change the food, but we don't change the brain. So what is the main problem? The main problem that we need to solve is overeating. And in order to do that, we need to understand how the brain works and work with it, not just food. Food will make that you restrict for a while and you stop. We'll talk more about it, how to bring the brain on board. But very often we do diets, but we don't want to do them. We're still craving, we're still thinking, we're still wishing, we still think that it's not fair that we have to reduce certain food. So the brain is really telling you, I don't want to be doing this. The brain makes the decisions. So understanding how the brain works will be very important. Now, the second, as I said, one is solving the main problem, overeating, and the other is that we're only focused on losing weight. What else should we focus on? You're probably asking yourself. So let me give you a key statistic. Most people who diet lose weight. Most people who actively do change what they eat and how they eat with the intention to lose weight actually manage to lose weight. But only 1 to 5% keeps that weight off. That is the big problem. There is a huge gap between losing weight and maintaining. So, the challenge is that you need to think maintenance from the start. Otherwise, you'll always end up gaining. And the way, one of the principles that I use in my program is that how you lose weight is how you maintain it. And that is critical and that is key. Because if you do things that you're not prepared to do, or you sometimes you lose weight in a vacuum, that I call it. You stop going out, you restrict things, you restrict your life so that you can lose weight. The moment you step back to your life, which is what you want to do, you'll gain the weight back. So you need to learn to lose weight with the life that you want to have. You need to think maintenance from the start. And you can do that. I do it in my program when you address these three pillars. The three are very important and necessary, I found. Body, brain, and habits. Body, because we are overeating. And that's created mostly because we experience over hunger and over desire. And the body is overstoring. So there's a whole biology that drives the weight gain that we experience in mid-age and especially through menopause. But also we need the brain, because the brain decides. You make all your decisions every time you choose the type of food, every time that you hesitate, but then you eat it. This is all brain decisions that you're doing. And nobody has taught us how to work with the brain. Also, food desire. Desire is an emotion, is created in the brain. So you need to learn how desire works and how to work with it. And then if you're like me, excuse me, if you're like me, I wanted to make food and weight a non-issue. That's the goal of what I wanted and the goal that I do in my program. A non-issue means something I don't want to worry. I don't want to be thinking about it all the time. So it needs to be a habit. You need to develop a consistency so that it becomes something that you do without thinking. And the most important part of that is that you need to think maintenance from the start. You need to think the long term from the beginning, from day one. Okay? So, these I do with these 5 essentials will address the 3 pillars. They really work so intertwined that I've separated them, but it's things that overlap and happen at the same time. So there are 5 essential steps, 5 essential things that need to happen if you want to lose weight permanently, lasting weight loss in menopause. These are these 5. You need to bring the brain on board so that you stop self-sabotaging yourself. All right? We need to establish a daily practice. We need to make eating intentional. That has to do with the brain and the habits. You need to develop a resilient metabolism, a metabolism that knows how to burn fat. That has to do with the body pillar. And then you need to problem solve why you overeat, you specifically. This not solving these problems is what makes you go back to your old habits, or makes you lose weight while your life is completely constrained, and the moment that you live your life again, you gain it all back. So problem solving is learning to lose the weight with the life you like to live. And finally, that's the final step of the habits. You need to become the person who eats well consistently. Then I assure you, you reach the goal where weight and food are no longer an issue in your life. And it is absolutely possible. After struggling for a long time, I solved it, and I help now, and my clients join me in this journey to be done. To be done, I call it solving weight. This moment that I tell them, you've solved weight, you're done, you're done. You are confident, you know you're not gaining it again. And now that we approach end of year, let me tell you that it is possible for you to make 2025 the year that you end this struggle. It is absolutely possible. Let's go one by one to these steps. A brief overview. Let's bring, what does it mean to bring the brain on board? Remember, brain decides. If the brain is not on board, you will sabotage your efforts and changes will not last. If you force yourself to do something, but you actually don't want to, at some point, the brain will get the better of you. It will, you'll end up eating the biscuits, the cake, the crisps, whatever it is for you. So how does the brain work? Because we need to work with the brain. We need to understand how the brain works if we're gonna make the decisions intentional. I'm going to teach you 2 things about the brain very shortly. The 2 brains concept and the brain's language. So let's start with the 2 brains concept. In fact, we have 2 brains, not 1, 2. This is of the reality. The brain is very complex, and we discover a lot, but I think it's still the organ that we know the least. But you will see yourself represented in these 2. We have a rational brain and the reactive brain. The rational brain is in the prefrontal cortex. It's the brain that thinks, sets goals, decides. It's the one you've used to come here, to book, come, and it's the one you're using listening to me right now. Okay, is the one that thinks long term, that makes plans. It's the one that knows you want to lose weight. Actually, it's the one that told you to come here. Is the one that knows what you want most. But we also have a reactive brain. A reactive brain that is driven is the one that has literally keeps us alive. It is in charge of our survival. So it is very important. But it responds to three triggers. It wants gratification and instant. The quicker the gratification, the better. That's why the cake wins. That's why the biscuit wins. It wants to avoid pain at all costs. And it wants to be efficient. And efficient comes out in two separate ways. One that is not helpful, but one that is very helpful. That's why I always say I love my reactive brain. One that is not helpful is that it doesn't want to do effort because it wants to be efficient. So be efficient means if I make a change, that costs me energy. I need to work for it. Work for it means energy, mental, muscle, whatever is involved. So I don't want to. Literally, the brain prefers, that part of the brain prefers to stay with what is known now and what saves the energy. However, that's also the brain that runs the habits because that's a very efficient have our whole systems running, isn't it? We don't have to think lots of the things that are done automatically for us. And when you create a habit is something that you don't have to think in order to do it. So it's a very efficient way. So the reactive brain loves it. The only problem is that the habits you have now, they're giving you the weight you have now. But we need to rewrite them so that they become new habits, but so that they become also something that you don't have to think about it. And that is possible. But that's why I love this part of the brain. And at the end of the day, we are the two brains. We can't escape it. This means being human. I know the reactive brain, you may have heard it called the lizard brain, the monkey brain, the primitive brain. Not really nice names because we're only focusing on the part where it derails us, which it does because the instant gratification, avoiding pain, the efficient part of the please don't change. So I absolutely true. Yet it's part of us, and yet is the one that we want to work with so that we can create these new habits. So in my work, I work with both. I don't treat one better than the other. They're all me, and I want to love them and cherish them, even when it gets on the way. The other concept I wanted to tell you about the brain is the brain's language. If we're going to work with the brain, we need to understand how the brain talks to us. And the brain talks to us in sentences and emotions. Sentences. Sentences are I call them sentences, but it's thoughts, what you're thinking. This is the brain talking to you, the conscious and unconscious thoughts. And around food, and they come from both, from the prefrontal cortex, from the rational brain, and from the reactive brain. Some of the sentences that the reactive brain tells us are these ones. It's just one. You know this one? I deserve it. I also had that. And many, many others. Now that you come back from holidays, how often have you told yourself, I can only eat this here, right? So this is the brain talking to you so that you do something, all right? And then emotions. So it's sentences and emotions, thoughts and emotions. The brain lets us know how we feel by creating these emotions. And the one that is super important when we talk about food is desire, because it's the one that will create the urges and the cravings that makes us feel out of control around food. All right. So we need to understand emotions, especially desire, if we're going to deal with urges and cravings. So when is the brain not on board? What examples of the brain not being on board? When we tell ourselves that I need to wait for the right time. Telling yourself that you'll start tomorrow, not today, next week, or very often is like, well, I'll start on Monday. Or doing what I call the Last Supper. Let me have a good supper and then I'll start tomorrow. Next week, after the holidays, many of you may have told yourself after the holidays and you're here because of that. So let's use that. But realize that Maybe don't be tempted to say, oh, let me leave it for next year. I'll do it in 2026. Don't do that to yourself. You just the brain, you want to lose weight, but the brain is not fully on board. Constantly restarting tomorrow. You start think, I'm going to eat very healthy, and then you add something that wasn't, that you didn't want to. Okay, let's forget. Let's restart and let's restart and let's restart. It's exhausting. Another tricky one is when you quit as soon as you have results. So common this. You lose a bit of weight and then you reward yourself with food, right? Have you done that? I did it a lot. I was losing weight and then, oh, that means I can have the chocolate. For me, it's chocolate. Chocolate and digestives. These are my things. And or another way of quitting when you get results is quitting what gives you the results. It's a problem when we do these incredibly restrictive diets that of course you're going to quit them, or some of the meal replacement plans. You plan to quit them from the beginning, right? So remember, how you lose weight is how you maintain it. If you lose it with meal replacement, it's going to be really difficult to switch to natural food. If you do it with with lots of willpower, that's why willpower doesn't work, because it means you literally have to constantly make the strength and the resistance. So that's why it doesn't work. Another very hidden one sometimes is wanting change without really changing what you eat. Feeling what I call sometimes entitled. And don't be upset by this, but it happens. You're certain that you want to lose weight. Yes, yes. My client tells me, I want to lose weight, but, and then I have a list of conditions of things that you're not prepared to do. Well, we might need, we might not need. The brain is not on board, only with a bit of. Another one is when you've done changes and believing that, oh, that's it, that should be it. I should be able to eat the rest. Just I was prepared to do these things, and it should be enough. That's the entitlement part. But it should be enough. Why is it not? Why is it not working? It's not that it's not working. Your body's telling you that that is not all, right? So there's a piece of work that happens as we learn to lose weight properly. You need to become very honest with yourself and bring the brain on board. To bring the brain on board, you need to change how you think. Your current thinking reflects your current weight. To change your weight, you need to change how you think about food and about the desire around food. And there's ways to do that. All right? This is not about telling yourself mantras like, I don't like chocolate. That's not going to work. I like chocolate. I've never tried to convince myself that I didn't like chocolate. That is not the way to do it. We need to establish a daily practice. We need to make eating intentional. That's a step 2. And that works with how the brain works, with the two brains. So we want to make eating intentional and conscious, which means decided by the prefrontal cortex. Step 1, and this is what you could start from tonight, all right? Step 1, you decide in advance. You think and write a daily meal plan that has everything, and that's so important, that word, everything of what you will eat tomorrow. Step 2, follow through. Tomorrow, you just have a meal plan. You need to, and it has everything. Remember, we can't forget a thing. You just eat what you wrote, nothing else. Except, I want you to expect not wanting to follow the meal plan. I want you to expect the brain not being on board. And the brain will talk to you, will create both an emotion, an urge, but also it will talk to you with sentences. So I want you to identify the thought, the sentence that wants to derail you, that tells you it's not a good idea, that meal plan that you wrote. Because in step 3, we're going to counteract it. Okay? Let me show you. What we often do, we counteract. You probably are doing it. But the way that you used to work with the two brains is a battle. Willpower is a battle. The battle of the brain that says, no, don't eat the cake, don't eat the fish and chips, don't eat the crisps, whatever your brain, rational brain, is telling you that is not good in order to lose weight. And the other one says, but I will love them, but I love them, but I want them. And we make them battle. We make one against the other. It's exhausting. You don't want to battle yourself because literally you're punching yourself. What we want is to have a dialogue. We want the two brains talk to each other and talk nicely to each other. No self-judgment, no blaming, none of that. So how can you talk to your brain? You want to counteract the sentence of the reactive brain by asking the rational brain what is also true. That question will bring the rational brain, whether you want it or not. So when the reactive brain says, I deserve it, we can ask the rational brain, what is also true? Well, for me, is that I deserve a healthy weight more. That's what I deserve and I want. I want to make it for me. When the reactive brain says it's just one, the rational brain, mine, answered me, but it's never just one, Bruna, and you know it. Okay? When the reactive brain says, I've messed up, I can give up now. Or a lighter version of this is like, ooh, let me just finish the pack and then I don't have to think about it. The truth is the rational brain knows and knows it very well that the only way to truly mess up is if you quit. That if you don't quit and go back tomorrow with all the same intention, not with a half intended intention, with the same intention, you will get there. And if the reactive brain tells you, who cares? That's what my reactive brain told me all the time on the spot. Said, but who cares? My rational brain said, I care. I care. I want to lose this weight. So what we want to bring is the both realities that coexisting in you. We don't want to deny what the reactive brain is telling you, but we want to counteract it with what is also true for you so that you can have that dialogue, not the punching, okay? Next step, we want to develop a resilient metabolism because, as I said, when I explained about the menopause, our body stores very well, and as we go through menopause, it becomes an even better storer. So what that means is that it loves to take energy. Everything you eat, everything it keeps. The body is designed to do that. It's not designed to spend, it's designed to keep. If there's various reasons for that, I won't cover this here because I realize that I won't be able to finish. I'm extending myself a lot today. What is a resilient metabolism done? Then is you can achieve it with the strategic food changes that regulate insulin by reducing the number and the height of insulin peaks, which is the hormone that deals with all the food and how it's processed in the body and how it's either spent or sent to storage. And storage means fat. It also solves for the excess hunger. You have excessive hunger right now. Your body if you want to lose weight, your body has plenty of energy and it's not using it. And not only that, it creates hunger. So we need to solve for that. It needs to become a fat-burning metabolism so that it allows you to develop appropriate levels of hunger that you can trust them. Right now, you cannot trust your hunger signals. And once you have a resilient metabolism, you no longer require constant feeding. So that's the goal of the body pillar. All right. Now, two examples of food changes that you can do that will help you a lot into this resilient metabolism. One is to eliminate snacks, and the other is eliminate processed sugars from your habitual eating. And note that I say habitual eating. I don't have time to go into the detail of how I separate patterns of eating that allow you to be literally eating everything you want, but not habitually, literally. So these two, and you'll notice a difference. And the next, we said problem solving. Problem solve why you eat. Overeating has three main paths. One is overhunger. We've just discussed it. And when we create the resilient metabolism, you develop appropriate levels of hunger. So the body will not be requesting more food. Then there's food that we request, not because our body needs it, but because we desire it. We want it, the pleasure of eating certain foods. For that, you want to decondition yourself from dopamine-driven foods. And you want to learn to process that urge instead of using willpower to resist it. That is deconditioning. That will allow you to have control over how much you desire foods. You will not be out of control. There's a huge difference between enjoying food and being out of control with food. And you can do the first. You don't want the second. And the next is underfeeling. And what do I mean by underfeeling? Is that very often we use food to buffer emotions. When we use food for comfort, everybody does. Even if you think you're not an emotional eater, that's what I thought. If we eat in excess, if we eat more than what our body needs, it always responds to emotions. It can be any sort of emotion. But what we want is to develop emotional resilience by sorting, by solving the real causes of those emotions. For those who don't think they are emotional eaters, think that probably is boredom. When we are bored, food entertains the brain a lot, and the brain loves it. So it keeps asking you for food. So boredom is a very typical one. But we're talking about being stressed, anxious, having anger, disappointment. There's a whole collection of emotions that don't feel good. So we eat over them. Trauma is another very important one. So we need to solve exactly for you, for each person, what is the real reason why we cannot say no to food. Why, when we go on to diet, we find it so hard. So without understanding that and solving the real reason, the real cause of that emotion, it's going to be it's for me it's then not possible to solve it for good, right? It really has to be part of this process. We need to eliminate the real cause if we want to keep the weight. Otherwise, the anxiety will continue to be there. The stress will continue to be there. So we need to learn to solve them without food so that you can become this person who eats well consistently. And this has three buckets for me. We always start with repetition. What we want is to erase the habits that are creating your current weight and then intentionally develop new behaviors. The three steps is they get you started with that, all right? Until it becomes a routine when you maintain the new behaviors without needing to think about it. And a lot of people in a lot of programs stay here. And that's all right. You can do that and stay here. You do it without thinking. So it's really good. It's good. I love the next step when it becomes an identity habit. It becomes who you are. You are someone who naturally eats well consistently. You know how there's naturally thin people that they don't think about food, and sometimes you have to remind them because otherwise they forget to eat. We're not going to forget. If we've had weight problems, we're not going to forget eating. It's never happened to me. But I can become someone who eats naturally for what my body needs. So I sort of become like those persons. I need to work for it. For them, it comes natural. They are the exception. We are the rule. And you become emotionally resilient. You no longer avoid emotions with food. And that has such an impact, not just in what you eat, has an impact in your whole life when we don't react to emotions. If you do these 5 steps, these 5 essential steps, the result is that what you want is possible. You lose weight, but not just that, you get your body back and alive, and you feel like yourself again. You feel healthier and are healthier. You have this body that supports you in the second half of your life. We are in a special time as we go through menopause because of all the changes. I think it really makes us think, what do I want from life now? What do I want moving forward? And sometimes we tell ourselves that the weight is on the way. I need to lose the weight so that. And actually, yes, I accompany many clients then on their quest, on their next steps after losing weight. You didn't need to lose weight, but it helps because you learn the tools that help you then move on next. You can enjoy food and feel in control. You no longer, that was so important for me, no longer spend the time and energy restricting what you eat and maintaining weight and being very hard and all the time obsessed with food. You make weight and food a non-issue in your life. You develop this emotional resilience that I said, so fantastic for literally everything. And yeah, it's you allow yourself to be excited and motivated about life again. That's what I experienced, and it was so transformative. We use a lot this word, but it was so transformative that's why I realized that I wanted to help women like you to do the same, to be in this place where food and weight are no longer something that is taking time and space in your brain. My clients experience the exact same transformation. Melanie wrote me very recently. She did the program. She had a lot more weight to lose than what I would advise within the program, but it doesn't matter because once you learn how to and the process and the tools and you understand the concepts, you can continue on your own. And she has. I've got from not trusting myself to lose weight and to keep the weight down to being confident. That's the word. When you feel it in your bones. It's like, oh yeah, no, I know what to do now. And remembering everything and just applying it. And I make it so simple. It's purposefully simple. The behavioral aspect of the changing what you do and how you do it, it's critical in order to make this something that becomes easy. All right. Who else? Shanaz, also exactly the same thing. She had tried many things and felt miserable, hopeless, and ashamed. It's unbelievable how we end up shaming ourselves. She's just lost the weight, and for her, cravings were a big thing. Equally, clients for whom weight has never been a problem and is just during menopause and they eat very healthy tell me, but I don't know what's happening. And the menopausal weight doesn't need to be huge amounts of weight. It can be a stone, it can be 5 kilos, 10. For me, it was 10 kilos, so a stone and a half. It's not a lot of weight. Stone is not a lot of weight, but believe me, not because it's not a lot of weight doesn't mean that it doesn't feel hard. We think like, oh, I just have this bit of weight, this 5 pounds to lose, this 3 pounds to lose. Why can't I? It's you need to put the pieces together. The diet alone will keep you circling around the same 5 pounds. And as you know, my clients all explaining the same, no matter what age is worth doing this work. The joy of just wearing the trousers that she had a whole pile of trousers all the same size. Had beautiful clothes that she had accumulated in her life and couldn't use them. So that made her a delight to just be able to wear them again. When you've been for a long time trying to lose weight and it hasn't happened, Sonia that thought, that's it. I can't reach my ideal weight gain, my healthy weight gain. And yes, she did. They all did. And you can too. That's what I want to pass on to you, that it is solvable and it is solvable for good. It's one of those things that you'll think, I wish I had known before. But you know it now. You can do it. Let me see. Yes. So that's the masterclass. I'll get to the questions, but first, I want to give you an opportunity to start working on these 5 essentials right now because it's so important. Every day that goes by, waiting to work on these steps is an opportunity you lose to improve your health, to lose that pound. Now, health is improved daily. I mentioned this at the very beginning. Every day matters, and every day that you don't work towards it is a day that you lost. Is without wanting to be catastrophic, because it's not. You have time, you have plenty of time, but you need to act. You need to do it because every day that is missed, these ones don't come back. We're not 20, we're not 30, all right? Also because I want you to start practicing these steps today. It's the single most important thing you can do for your health, for yourself. You have a goal by the